How was your day? Maybe you gave and gave today. To work, to people, to the small needs that never stop, and maybe no one thought to give anything back. There is a mother in the old Andes who feeds everyone. Her name is Pachamama, Mother Earth. She gives maize, water, warmth, and for a long time the people forgot to give anything back. So settle in now. Let the day set down its weight. We will go up into the mountains together, where the air is thin and cold and the earth is about to grow very quiet. Picture it. A girl stands where the maize should be tall. It is gray and bent. She kneels and lifts a fistful of soil. It runs through her fingers like dry ash. Something is wrong with the world. Far below, the river that fed them is shrinking, and deep beneath the dry bed, something old turns in its sleep. A coil of rainbow black scales. The mountains are holding their breath. Here's the strange part. The mother who feeds everyone has gone silent. Not cruel, not absent, just quiet. The way you go quiet when you have given everything and no one noticed. The people prayed to the sun, they prayed to the moon. They did not think to kneel to the ground beneath them. And the ground, after all those years, simply stopped answering. Maybe you know that feeling. To hold something together for so long that no one remembers you are holding it. This is a story about what the earth wanted and what it cost to finally listen. This is what we do here every week. One old story, one night. Something that happened long ago in the mountains and somehow still knows something about now. Get comfortable now. Find your warmth, your pillow. If you drift off before the end, Mother Earth will not mind. She has watched over sleeping people for longer than there have been names. This is only the beginning. The climb, the serpent, the long way back to balance, that is all still ahead. But not tonight. Tonight, just this, just the first quiet. If tonight felt like something, subscribe. We will be here next week. Another story, another night like this one. Now back to the mountains and the girl and the silent earth. Her name was Sisa, 19 years old, 2 braids tied with red wool. She herded a few alpacas and planted the family terrace the way her mother had, and her mother before that. Her grandmother had taught her one thing above all. Before you take from the ground, you give to the ground. A few leaves, a few kernels, a thank you, pressed into the soil. But the grandmother was gone now. And the village had grown busy and a little proud. Good years make people forget. The terraces gave so much that no one stopped to say thank you. Yupanqui worked the terrace below hers, a lean young man with a bronze footplow and a stubborn streak. He thought the offerings were old habit. He thought the harvest came from his own 2 hands. Then the first dry season came. Not a hard one, just a warning. The snowmelt ran thin, the youngest terrace cracked, and still no one thought to kneel and give back. The old stories knew this. Some deaths are quiet for a long time. The earth does not shout, it waits, and then, one morning, it simply does not rise to meet you. That is where our night begins. Let us go back, before the silence, to a morning when the terraces were green and the village was sure it had earned every kernel. Sisa walked up the stone steps with the sun on her back. She still gave the old offering. Not every day, but sometimes she knelt at the flat stone and pressed 3 coca leaves into the soil, the way her grandmother had shown her. It felt small, it was not small. Below her, Yupanqui turned his terrace with the bronze plow. He never knelt. The harvest is mine, he thought. My back, my hands. The earth is just dirt that does what dirt does. And all the while, someone walked the rows that no one saw, barefoot, patient, her shawl heavy with seeds. Where her feet pressed, the soil grew dark and willing. The people called the harvest luck. It was never luck. This is the mother of our story, not a queen on a throne. A woman with dirt under her nails and maize silk in her hair. She does not ask to be worshipped, she asks only to be remembered. Some say she is the mountain itself. Some say she is the soil of every field. Both are true. When you walk the Andes, you are always walking on her. That is the first thing to understand. The only thing, really. High above the terraces, the sun came up over the peaks each day without fail. The people loved him best. Inti, bright, golden, impossible to ignore. It is easy to thank the thing that shines. And at night came Mama Killa, the moon, cool and silver, watching over the sleeping fields. The people thanked her too. The bright ones got the prayers. The mother under their feet got nothing. Inti and Mama Killa were husband and wife in the old telling. Sun and moon, day and night, taking turns to keep the world. They loved each other across the sky, but neither could feed a single child. Only the earth could do that. Only Pachamama turned light and water into something a body could eat. The sun gave warmth, the moon gave rhythm, the mother gave the meal, and took the least thanks of the three. There was an older one, too. Older than sun or moon, they called him Wiracocha, the maker who walked out of the lake long ago and shaped the first people from stone, then breathed and let them go. Wiracocha made the world and then stepped back from it. He walks the high roads still, they say, an old man no one recognizes. He does not interfere often, but he remembers every promise the people ever made. And there was one more. Not a person, not a god, exactly. A thing that lived in the deep water under the world where the rivers are born. They called it Amaru, the great serpent, the keeper of the flow. When Amaru was content, the rivers ran clean and steady. When Amaru was ignored, the water forgot its manners, too little or far too much. The serpent and the mother were bound together. Remember that, for later. So that was the world Sisa lived in. A sun that shone, a moon that watched, an old maker who remembered, a serpent in the deep, and a mother walking the rows, waiting to be thanked. Sisa felt the change before anyone said it aloud. The snowmelt channel ran a little thinner each week. The lowest terrace dried first. She told the elders. They smiled and said the rains were only late. But the rains were not only late. Sisa walked to the lowest terrace and knelt. The soil was cracking in small lines, like old skin, and the cracks were not random. They spread out, away from a single point, as if from a wound. She did not know it yet, but the wound was a place where the mother had knelt and grieved, and stood and not come back. The earth was simply showing the shape of her absence. Yupanqui found her there, kneeling and staring. He laughed, not unkindly. "It is a dry year," he said. "We work harder, that is all." He did not see the cracks the way she did. He saw only dirt. "We work harder." That was the whole answer the village had. More plowing, more sweat, more taking. No one in the village said the other word, the old word, give. That night Sisa could not sleep. She lay in the stone house and listened, and under the wind, very faint, she thought she heard it. A sound from the ground itself. Not a voice, more like a held breath, finally let go. Here is the part the stories never make obvious. The mother was not angry yet. She was only tired. And a tired thing, ignored long enough, does not rage. It withdraws, slowly, quietly, like a tide going out. By the second dry month, the upper terraces failed too. The maize stood waist-high and stopped. The cobs came small and hard. The village finally grew afraid. Fear, at last, made them remember they had forgotten something. They went first, of course, to the sun. They climbed to Inti's golden temple and laid out offerings of gold and feathers. The sun heard them, but the sun could only give warmth, and warmth on dry ground just makes dust. They prayed to Mama Killa for soft night rain. She wept silver for them, but the moon's tears never reached the ground. They are only light. The village did not understand why the bright gods could not help. Sisa watched them pray upward, always upward, to the things that shone, and she remembered her grandmother's hands, guiding hers downward, to the soil. The answer is not above us, she thought. We have been looking the wrong way. She went to the elders and said the old word, give, bring back the offering stone. Kneel to the ground, not just the sky. They frowned. That is grandmother's superstition, they said. We are past such things. Only Yupanqui lingered after the others left. He did not believe her, but he had seen his strongest terrace die under his strongest work, and a crack had opened in his certainty, the way they opened in the ground. What did you used to do? He asked her quietly. The offering. Show me. He had never asked her anything before. Sometimes the proudest people are the first to break. Once they begin. He had begun. So the two of them went, alone, to the old flat stone at the edge of the field. They swept off the dust. They spread a small cloth, and Sisa laid out the offering the way her grandmother had, while Yupanqui watched, unsure where to put his hands. It is not a payment, she told him. It is a thank you. You give back a little of what you took, so the earth knows you noticed. So she knows she is not just being used, that is all. That is everything. Nothing happened. No rain, no green. Yupanqui almost laughed at himself. But Sisa did not move. She kept her palms flat on the ground, eyes closed, and under her hands, very faint, she felt it, a warmth, like someone far off turning their head. It was almost nothing, a flicker, but the mother had felt a hand on the ground that meant it. The first in a long time. She did not come back. Not yet. But she stopped walking away. Sisa opened her eyes. I felt something, she whispered. Yupanqui had felt nothing, but he saw her face, and something in it made him kneel again, and this time put his own hands flat on the ground and wait. They stayed there until the stars came out. Two young people with their hands on the ground in a dying field, doing the one thing the whole village had decided was useless. It would not be enough, but it was a beginning. Walking home in the dark, Yupanqui finally asked the question that had been under everything. Why did she stop? If she is the mother, why would she let her own children go hungry? Sisa did not have the answer. Not yet. But she knew who might. The old man on the high roads. The one the stories spoke of, Wiracocha, who made the world and remembered every promise in it. If anyone could explain a mother's silence, it was the one who shaped her. Finding him would mean climbing. Up past the last terrace, past the tree line, up toward the Apu, the great stone spirit who sat above the clouds and watched the whole valley with eyes of cold blue light. It was not a journey for one person. Sisa knew that. But when she said she would go, Yupanqui set down his foot plow, the thing he had trusted most in the world, and said he would carry the food. He had begun, and he would not stop now. The elders did not stop them. They did not bless them either. They only watched the two young ones walk up out of the fields, toward the cold peaks, carrying a bag of seeds and a half-remembered prayer. Before we climb with them, stay a moment at the edge of the field, because to understand why this offering mattered so much, you have to understand how these mountain people first came to know the earth as a mother at all. Long before the terraces, the first people came up out of a cave by the great lake. That is what the old ones said, not down from the sky, up, out of the ground. The earth did not make them, the earth bore them. Think about what that does to a people. If you climb up out of the ground at the start, then the ground is not below you, it is where you come from. It is kin, you do not own the field. The field is family. So when they planted carefully. Before the first seed went in, a few leaves went down. Before the harvest, a cup poured out. Not magic, manners, the manners you keep with someone you love and rely on. They had a word for it, Aini. It means I give to you, you give to me, and neither of us keep score, because we are bound. It is how they treated each other, and it is how they treated the ground. Sisa's village had kept Aini with each other. They still shared work, still helped a neighbor raise a roof. They had only forgotten to keep it with the one who fed them all, and that, it turned out, was the bond that held up everything else. Now you know why the offering mattered. Not as a spell to make rain, as a thread in a relationship. And a relationship, once it goes quiet, is not fixed in a single night. Sisa was about to learn exactly how long mending takes. The climb was harder than Sisa expected. The air thinned, her chest tightened, the green fell away behind them, terrace by terrace, until there was only gray rock and scattered tough grass and the wind that never stopped. They chewed coca leaves the way their elders had taught, to steady the breath in the high air. And as they climbed, Yupanqui kept glancing at the seed bag on Sisa's shoulder. Our whole future is in there, he said. We are carrying it up a mountain. That night they sheltered in a shallow rock overhang. No fire would catch in the wind. They huddled close and watched the stars wheel, brighter up here than Sisa had ever seen them. So close they seemed to be listening. Tell me about her, Yupanqui said in the dark. Your grandmother. So Sisa did. How she sang to the seeds, how she always left the last of her meal on the ground, how she said the earth was not a thing but a someone. I used to think that was foolishness, Yupanqui admitted, a someone. But I have stood in my best field and watched it die under my best work, and I have begun to think maybe my work was never the whole of it. Maybe I was only ever half the story. That is the thing pride hides from you, Sisa said softly, that you were never working alone, that every harvest was a gift and a labor, both. Take the gift for granted long enough, and one day the gift stops coming. He was quiet a long time after that. In the morning, the cloud forest began. The slope turned from bare rock to a tangle of twisted mossy trees and drifting white mist, dripping with water that never reached the valley below, a whole hidden world between the worlds. It was wet here, when the valley below was dying of thirst. Sisa pressed her hand to the dripping moss and understood. The water was not gone from the world, it was only refusing to come down. The mother was keeping it close, like a held breath. Somewhere in that mist, they were not alone. Sisa felt eyes, not unkind, only old, and watching. The Apu had noticed two small people climbing into his cold country. The mountain spirit was deciding whether to let them pass. They came out of the trees onto a high, cold shoulder of the mountain, and there, sitting on a road that seemed to lead nowhere, was an old man, gray robe, white beard, two dark staffs, water trailing from his hem, here, where there was no water at all. They did not know him. To them he was just an old traveler, impossibly old, in an impossible place. But Sisa offered him the manners she had been raised with. She knelt, and shared their coca, and asked if he was tired, before she asked him for anything. The old man took the leaves. "You give before you ask," he said. "That is rarer than it used to be. Most who climb this far come to demand something of the mountain. You came to share your cocoa with a stranger. Sit, I have time. I always have time." "We came to ask why the mother went silent," Sisa said. "Why she would let her own children starve." The old man looked at her a long moment. Then he asked a question back. "Tell me, when you give your offering, what do you think you're paying for?" "For rain." Yupanqui said quickly, "For good harvest." The old man shook his head slowly. "That is why she stopped," he said. "While you thought the offering was a payment for harvest, it was never a relationship. It was a transaction, and no mother stays where she is only a vendor." "She does not want to be paid," the old man said. "She wants to be known. There is a difference, and your whole village forgot it. You can buy bread, you cannot buy a mother's gladness, that you can only earn slowly by showing up." "Then she will never forgive us," Sisa said quietly. "We treated her like dirt, like a tool." The old man smiled, and it was not a cruel smile. "Mothers," he said, "are far harder to lose than that. She has not left. Look down. She is only waiting to be asked properly. But there is a harder thing you must know." The old man went on, and his face grew grave. "While she withdrew, the balance broke, and when the mother sleeps, the serpent stirs. Amaru has been ignored as long as she has. The water has no keeper now. When the mother is glad, Amaru keeps the rivers gentle," the old man said. "When she grieves, the serpent grieves with her, and a grieving serpent does not hold the water kindly. If you wake her, you may wake him too. Be ready for that, it will not be simple." Sisa felt the weight of it settle on her. They had come up a mountain hoping for a simple answer. "Kneel here, say these words, and the rain comes." Instead, they were learning that mending a broken bond might cost more than the breaking ever had. "What do we do?" Yupanqui asked. "Just tell us, and we will do it." The old man stood slowly, leaning on his two staffs, and for a moment he seemed taller than the mountain. "You climb to the Apu's altar," he said, "and there you give, not to buy anything. You give because you're sorry. She will know the difference. Take only your truest offering," he said, "not the most valuable, the most yours, the thing that costs you to give. That is the only kind she has ever wanted." Sisa's hand went, without thinking, to the seed bag, to next year's seed, to their whole future. "But that is our planting seed," Yupanqui said, his voice tight. "If we give that, even if the rain comes, we have nothing to put in the ground. We would be saved and starving in the same breath." The old man only looked at them. "I did not say it would be easy," he said. "I said it would be true. Stay with this, because it is the heart of the whole story. A gift that costs you nothing is not really a gift." The village had always given the easy leftover, the leaf they would not miss. To mend it, someone would have to give the thing they could not spare. When they looked up to thank the old man, the road was empty. No footprints, only a thin line of water on the dry stone where he had sat, soaking slowly into the mountain, as if even he was an offering, returning to the ground. They understood then who they had shared their cocoa with, and they understood that the old maker had not given them a spell. He had given them a choice. The rest of the climb and the rest of the story would be theirs to carry. They climbed on through the afternoon. The mist thinned, the trees gave out entirely, Now it was only snow and stone and the long blue shadows of the peaks, and above them, no longer hidden, sat the Apu, vast, patient, and awake. The cold up here was a living thing. It pressed on the chest, it numbed the hands. Sisa's breath came in white clouds, fast and shallow, but she kept her eyes on the carved stone altar near the summit, where the offering would have to be made. The Apu's blue eyes followed them all the way up. It did not speak. It did not need to. Its gaze asked the only question that mattered. Have you come to take from my mountain, like all the others, or have you finally come to give? They reached the altar as the sun began to lower, turning the snow rose and gold. Sisa knelt. She set the seed bag on the cold stone, and she looked at it for a long, long moment. Everything they had, everything next year depended on, lying there in the wind. Yupanqui knelt beside her. He put his hand over hers on the bag. We do this together, he said, or not at all. Below them, far down in the dark of the valley, the dry riverbed shifted, and something old and patient began at last to wake. That is where we will go next. At the summit altar, Sisa knelt with her hands on the seed bag and could not let go. Not yet. The wind pulled at her braids. The whole future was under her palms, giving it felt less like worship and more like falling. Yupanqui's hand stayed over hers. Whatever happens, he said, we starve together or we eat together. That is what the village forgot. That no one survives alone. Not us. Not the earth. The words steadied her more than warmth could. But before she could open the bag, the mountain itself spoke, not in words, in a long, low grinding, as the Apu turned its great stone head toward them, and the points of blue light in its eyes grew brighter, and the snow slid from its shoulders. Cracks of pale light opened along the Apu's shoulders. Its voice when it came was the sound of glaciers moving. Why, it said slowly, should I let you give? When your people took from this mountain for 100 years and never once looked up. Sisa's voice shook, but she answered. We did not look up, she said. We looked everywhere but down. We thanked the sun and the moon and forgot the ground that holds them both. We are not here to make excuses. We are here because we are sorry. Sorry is a small word. The Apu rumbled. Many have said it on this summit, after the rivers dried. Sorry costs nothing. The mountain leaned closer, its cold breath rolling over them. Show me a sorry that costs you something, then I will believe it. So Sisa opened the bag. Her fingers were numb, but she opened it. And she poured the seed, every kernel, next year's whole planting, out across the altar stone and into the wind, where some scattered onto the snow and some fell away into the valley below. It is everything we have, she said into the wind. Not the leftover, not the leaf we would not miss. This is the seed we needed to live. We give it back to you, Mother, because we should never have taken without giving. Forgive us, or do not, but we will give it anyway. For a long moment nothing moved. The wind died. The Apu's blue eyes did not blink. And then, far down the mountain, deep under the ground, something the size of the whole valley turned over and answered. The mother had heard. And so, unfortunately, had the serpent. Look at her, said the Apu, gentler now, and it lifted one stone arm toward the highest snowfield, where the wind was lifting white powder into a shape with shoulders, with loose dark hair, a woman made of the mountain's own snow, slowly turning to face them. Sisa could not breathe, and not only from the cold. The mother she had given everything to was standing in front of her, made of snow and grief, more real than any prayer she had ever spoken, and the mother was looking at the scattered seed on the altar. You gave me your seed, the mother said, and her voice was the sound of meltwater finding its way through stone. Do you know what you have done? If the rain comes now, you have nothing to plant. You have saved your village and ruined it in one breath. We know, Sisa said. We thought about it the whole way up. The Apu told us, give the thing you cannot spare, or do not bother. We did not understand until now what that meant. It meant trusting you. Trusting that a mother does not let her children starve for keeping faith. Something shifted in the mother's snow-bright face. For years she had received only the easy leftover, the leaf no one would miss. Now 2 children had carried their whole future up a mountain and laid it in the wind for her. It was not the seed that moved her. It was the meaning. This moment is easy to miss, but it changes everything. The mother had not withdrawn out of cruelty. She had withdrawn out of loneliness, and the only thing that ever calls a lonely one back is not a payment, it is being truly seen. Sisa had seen her. I have been so tired, the mother admitted, and the admission seemed to cost her too. For 100 years I gave, and to your people I was only ever the ground under their feet, a thing to stand on, never a someone to thank. Do you know how that wears on a heart? I think I do, Sisa said quietly. There are people who hold everything together and are never thanked for it, who are only noticed when they finally stop. My grandmother was one. Maybe you have been the same, for the whole valley, for longer than anyone can count. The mother was silent. Then, slowly, she gathered the scattered seed back into her snow-bright hands, every kernel, and held it to her chest. I will not take this, she said. A mother does not take her children's last bread, but I will take what it meant. That I will keep forever. She pressed the seed back into Sisa's hands and closed the girl's fingers over it. Plant this when you go home, she said. It will grow, I promise you that much. But Sisa, there is something I cannot stop now, even glad as I am. I slept too long, and while I slept, the river forgot its keeper. As if in answer, a sound rolled up the mountain from far below. Not thunder, lower. The groan of waking water. The mother turned toward it, and her warm new face filled with dread. He is rising, she said, Amaru, and he is rising angry. When I withdrew, she said quickly, the balance broke. Amaru held the rivers for me, gentle and steady, but a serpent with no mother to serve becomes only hunger and motion. He has been dry and ignored as long as I have, and now he wakes thirsty for all the water at once. Sisa felt the ground of her relief drop away. They had come so far, they had given everything. They had moved the mother's heart, and now, in the same breath, a new danger was rising, bigger than drought, harder to name. The story was not ending, it was turning. Can we stop him? Yupanqui asked. The mother shook her head slowly. Not stop, never stop the water. You can only ask it to remember its banks, and that asking must be done where he wakes, down in the deep, in the dark under the world, not from up here. Go home first, the mother said. Plant the seed, bring your village back to the giving, all of them, not just you two. A single thread cannot hold a torn cloth. The whole village broke this. The whole village must help mend it. Only then will the deep listen. And then the snow mother began to come apart, gently, into drifting white, the way mist lets go of a hill. Remember me, she said as she scattered, not with gold, with your hands in the ground. I will be there, I am always there. And then she was only snow again, and wind. The Apu settled back into stillness, a mountain again, though its blue eyes glowed a little warmer now. Go down. It rumbled, its voice fading into rock. You have done the first hard thing. The harder things wait below. And then it too was only stone, vast and silent and watching. They began the long climb down as the sun set behind the peaks. Sisa held the seed bag against her chest the whole way, as if it were a heartbeat. It was lighter than gold and heavier than anything. It was a promise they now had to keep for the mother and for the whole valley. They came down through the cloud forest in the dark, the mist now silver with moonlight. Mama Killa was overhead, and her light fell on them softer than before, almost like a blessing. The bright gods, it seemed, were glad to see someone finally tending the mother. By dawn they reached the last high pasture above the terraces, and they stopped, because they could see the valley spread below them, and the river, the thin dead river, was no longer thin. It was swelling, brown and fast and wrong. Amaru was loose, and the water was rising. They ran the last stretch down to the village. People were already shouting, dragging belongings up from the lowest houses, watching the brown water climb the terraces from below, even as the upper field still died of thirst. Too little and too much, both at once, the balance broken. The elders met Sisa at the edge of the village. There was no scorn left in them now, only fear and the dawning of an old shame. You were right, the eldest said quietly. We forgot her. Tell us what we must do. And Sisa, breathless, told them, give, all of you, now. She set the seed bag down in the center of the village and opened it. We plant this together, she said, every family a row, and before each row goes in we give back. Not the leftover, the good seed. The mother is awake, but she will only stay if the whole valley remembers her at once. Yupanqui was the first to kneel. He who had said the harvest came from his own 2 hands, now pressed coca leaves into the soil before the whole village and said, out loud, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Thank you, mother. For every year I never thanked you. The proud had bowed first. One by one, the village knelt. Old hands and small hands pressed leaves and kernels into the ground, the lane filled with the low murmur of 100 quiet thank yous. The first the mother had heard from this place in 100 years. Above, the dying upper terraces seemed to lean in to listen. And it worked, partly. The high terraces began to darken with returning moisture. A few green shoots dared to lift. The drought, at least, was breaking. But down below, the flood did not retreat. If anything, it climbed faster. Amaru was not soothed by the village's gift. He was beyond it now. Sisa understood. The mother had told her plainly. Bringing the village back would wake her gladness, but the serpent was a deeper wound. The water's keeper had been alone in the dark too long, and it would take more than coca leaves in a field to call him home. Someone would have to go down to him. That night, the village did not sleep. They watched the flood and tended the new shoots and kept their offerings going. And Sisa walked to the riverbank alone, as close as she dared, and looked into the churning water, and tried to find, somewhere in all that fury, the keeper she needed to reach. Yupanqui found her there. "You're thinking of going down to him," he said. It was not a question. She nodded. The mother said the asking must be done where he wakes, in the deep, under the world. "I do not know how to get there, but I think the river itself is the door." "Then I am the door's second traveler," Yupanqui said. "We do this together, remember? I left my plow at the village edge a lifetime ago. I'm not turning back now." Sisa looked at him, the proud farmer who had become her companion, and was glad, more glad than she could say, not to be going alone. But not yet, Sisa decided. The mother said the whole valley must mend the break, and the village had only just begun. "We finish the planting first," she said. "We make the giving real and steady, not just one frightened night. Then we go down. A keeper will not come home to a house still in chaos." So for 3 days the village worked as it had not worked in years, together. Every row planted with an offering first. The channels dug deeper to carry off the flood. Children carrying seed, elders pouring chicha onto the soil. The whole mountain learning again, the old word, give. And the upper valley answered. The high terraces greened, the cracks closed. Where the people gave, the mother gave back, visibly now, shoots rising almost as fast as they could plant. The drought, in the high country, was over. But always, at the bottom of the valley, the brown flood waited, and the serpent thrashed. On the third evening, Sisa stood at the river's edge again. The planting was done, the village was whole. The mother was glad in the high fields. There was nothing left to delay her now but fear. And fear, she had learned, was no reason to leave a thing unmended. It was time to go down. She filled a small bag, not with seed this time, but with the things the deep might understand. A coca leaf, a red thread from her braid. A pinch of soil from the newly greened terrace, so the serpent could smell that the mother was glad again. Small things, the most yours, the old man had said, the truest. Yupanqui packed beside her, saying little. He was afraid. She could see it. But he had decided, long ago on the mountain, that some fears are worth carrying for the sake of the thing on the other side. He shouldered his bag. "Lead on," he said. "The door is yours to open." The village gathered behind them on the bank, every face that had once doubted now solemn and grateful. The eldest pressed a hand to Sisa's shoulder. "Whatever is down there," he said, "you do not go for yourselves. You go for all of us. We will keep the offerings burning until you return. Go well." Sisa stepped to the very edge where the flood had carved a dark opening down into the rock, a throat in the world that the rising water had uncovered. Cold air breathed up out of it, older than the mountains. This was the way down into the Ukupacha, the world below. She looked back once at the green terraces high above, silver in the moonlight. Proof that the mending was real, that giving worked, that there was something worth going down into the dark to protect. Then she took Yupanqui's hand, and together they stepped off the edge of the lit world. "Before we follow them down into the dark, stay a moment at the river's edge with the small offerings in Sisa's bag. Because to understand why a coca leaf and a red thread could matter to a serpent, you have to understand what the offering really was all along." The Andean people called the offering a despacho, a bundle of small things, leaves, seeds, wool, sweets, a little fat, a wish whispered into each one. Not valuable things, meaningful things. The despacho was never about the worth of the gift, it was about the care in the giving. Each leaf was akin to 3 leaves held together and breathed upon, a small prayer made of breath and green. You did not throw it down, you blew your wish across it first, so part of you went into the ground with the gift. The earth got not only the leaf, but a piece of the giver. And when the bundle was complete, it was given back to the earth, buried in the soil or fed to a small fire so the smoke could carry it up. Either way, it left the human world entirely. A true gift, the old people understood, is one you do not get to keep or even watch. This is why Sisa's small bag could matter to a serpent in the deep. She was not bringing payment. She was bringing a piece of herself, breathed into a leaf, carried down to a lonely keeper to say, "You are remembered, you are part of us, come home." That is a thing no flood can refuse forever. So keep that in mind as they go down. The thing in the deep is enormous and furious and old, but the thing Sisa carries is smaller and stronger, a piece of a person freely given that says you are not alone. We will see. Now, which of the two is greater? Down they go. The Ukupacha was not what Sisa expected. Not fire, not punishment. It was quiet and cool and strangely beautiful. Overhead, the roots of every plant in the valley glowed faintly, like an upside-down forest of light, drinking from the slow black water below. "So this is where it all comes from," Yupanqui murmured. "All that we plant up there, all that we eat, it is fed from down here, in the dark, where none of us ever look." He had spent his life sure the harvest was his. Now he stood in the secret root of it all, and felt very small and somehow glad. They followed the black water inward, deeper, toward a sound like a great slow heartbeat that they could feel in their chests before they could hear it. Sisa knew it was him. Not a roar, not yet, just the breathing of something vast and lonely, curled at the center of the world. The passage opened into a cavern so large its roof was lost in darkness. And there, coiled around a black lake that was the source of every river in the valley, lay Amaru. Even at rest he was vast beyond reckoning, his rainbow-black scales glinting, his antlered head as large as a house. His red-amber eyes opened. They fixed on the 2 small humans at the edge of his lake. "Who Combs," the serpent said, and his voice was the flood and the deep and the long dry years all at once into my dark. "Come you to take the water, like all your kind? Then take it," he reared. "We did not come to take," Sisa called up, her voice tiny in the vast dark. "We came to give. We came because the mother is awake again, and she misses you. We came to bring you home." The serpent paused, his head swaying high above them, suspicious, his eyes narrowing. "Home," the serpent repeated, and something in the words seemed to wound him. "I have no home. The mother slept, the rivers ran dry. I lay in the mud and called and no one came, not her, not you, not anyone." He lowered his head toward them, vast and bitter. "Why should I believe you now?" "Because we forgot her too," Sisa said. "And we are learning to come back. We are not asking you to forgive us all at once. We are only asking you to begin, the same way we began, with one small true thing." And she lifted the kintu of 3 leaves to her lips and breathed across them. She knelt at the edge of the black lake and set the 3 leaves on the dark water. They did not sink, they floated toward him. 3 small green lights on the vast black mirror, carrying her breath, her wish, a piece of a person, out across the water to the lonely keeper of it all. The serpent watched the 3 small lights come. He, who had been given nothing for 100 years, watched a piece of a human float toward him across the dark. And slowly, slowly, he lowered his enormous antlered head to the water, and breathed in the scent of the leaves, and of the soil she had carried, and went very still. "She is glad again," he said, and his vast voice had changed. Wonder in it now, and grief, and something like hope. I can smell it on the soil. The green, the thank yous. It has been so long. He turned his great eyes down to Sisa. "You did this? You woke her?" She nodded. "We all did, together." But even as he calmed, the great serpent's body still filled the world above with flood. Calming his heart was not the same as calming the water. The river still rose in the valley. He looked at Sisa with something close to shame. "I do not know how to stop," he admitted. "I have been angry so long I have forgotten how to be gentle." "Then let us remind you," Sisa said, "the way someone reminded me." She reached into her bag and drew out the red thread from her braid, and she held it up. "This held my hair together for 19 years, she said. "A small thing. But small things hold the big things. Let me show you." She tied the red thread around a single glowing root that dipped from the cavern roof into the black water. "Watch," she said. "The river forgets its banks because no one shows it where they are anymore. So we show it, one thread, one bank, one small line that says this far, and gentle." The serpent stared at the small red thread on the great pale root, and something in him understood. He had been all flood because nothing had marked his banks. No mother, no offering, no thread. He lowered his vast head beside the thread, and for the first time in 100 years, he held still on purpose. Above, in the valley, the village watched the brown flood pause at the lowest terrace wall and stop. Just stop, as if it had remembered something. They did not know why. They could not see the red thread in the deep, or the great serpent holding still beside it. But they felt the change, and they kept their offerings burning. But it was not finished. Holding still was not the same as going home. The serpent had calmed his heart and paused the flood. But he was still down here, alone. And the moment Sisa and Yupanqui left, the loneliness would creep back, and the water would forget again. A pause is not a peace. "If we leave, you will be alone again," Sisa said softly, "and it will all come back." The serpent's head sank. "Yes," he said, "that is the curse of the deep. I keep the water for everyone, and no one remembers I am here. The mother visits when she is well, but she has a whole world. I have only the dark." Sisa thought hard. The mother had said the asking must be done in the deep, but she had not said how to make the peace last. And then Sisa remembered the bank and the thread, and she understood. It was not enough to calm him once. He needed to be remembered always. He needed his own offering, his own thread, tied again and again. "We will not forget you again," she said. "I promise. When we honor the mother, we will honor you too. At every planting, an offering for the earth, and an offering for the keeper of the water. A thread for her, a thread for you. You will never again lie in the dark uncalled. That is the bargain. Will you take it?" The serpent was quiet for a long time. The black water lapped gently at the red thread, and then, in a voice gone soft as a far river, he said, "I will take it. I will hold the water gentle. I will keep the banks. As long as I am remembered, I will be the keeper, and not the flood." But a bargain in the deep, Sisa was about to learn, is not sealed with words alone. As the serpent agreed, the black lake began to glow, and the water rose around the two humans, not violently, but rising all the same, faster than they could climb. The deep wanted to keep what had finally come to visit it. "It is not him," the serpent said quickly, alarmed. "It is the deep itself. It is lonely too, and you are the first warmth it has felt in an age. It will drown you to keep you. Go now, while I hold it back." He spread his vast coils against the rising water, making a wall, making a path. They ran, up the passage they had come down, the glowing water snapping at their heels, the serpent's great body straining behind them to hold the deep in check. Sisa's lungs burned. Yupanqui pulled her on, and ahead, impossibly far, was a single point of pale gray light. The world above, the lit world, home. Behind them, the serpent's voice followed up the passage, no longer angry, almost tender. "Remember me," he called as the deep fought to pull him back down. "A thread at every planting. A wish on the water. Keep your word, and I will keep mine. Do not let your children forget me again." "We will not forget you," Sisa shouted back down into the dark, with all the breath she had left. "I swear it on my grandmother's hands." And then the pale light was right ahead, and Yupanqui was pulling her through, and they burst up out of the throat of the world into the cold gray dawn. They lay on the riverbank in the dawn, soaked and shaking and breathing the sweet cold air of the living world, and around them the village was already gathering, having watched the flood stop in the night, having kept their offerings burning, having waited and hoped and not given up. The river ran clear and gentle now, exactly within its banks. The lowest terraces drowned days ago were already draining, and on every level of the valley, in the high green fields and the low wet ones, the same word was being spoken now by everyone: give. It had become, at last, the village's word again. Sisa sat up and looked at the calmed river and the greening fields and the gathered village, and she felt for the first time in months that the world was holding together. The mother was glad, the serpent was at peace. The people remembered. It felt like the end of the story. But you and I know better. It was not. Because a promise is easy to make in the dawn after danger, when your heart is full and your fear is fresh. keeping it through 100 ordinary years, through good harvests that make people proud and forgetful again. That is the harder thing. And the mother knew it. She had been forgotten once. She would not be fooled by one good morning. That morning, as the village celebrated, Sisa walked up alone to the high terrace where the first green shoots had risen. And there, kneeling in the soil with her hands pressed flat, was a woman she now knew. Not snow this time. Earth, warm, copper-skinned, maize silk in her braided hair. The mother made of the ground itself. "You came down," the mother said, smiling, without turning. "You calmed the keeper. You made him a promise." Sisa knelt beside her. "We made you a promise too," she said. "To remember. Both of you, always." The mother was quiet a moment, her hands working the soil. "Promises," she said softly, "are the easy part. I have heard 1,000 promises on mornings like this." The mother went on, gently, not unkindly, full hearts after near disasters. "And I have watched 1,000 good harvests slowly turn those promises back into habit, and habit back into forgetting. I am glad today, Sisa, but glad is not the same as safe. Not yet." "Then how do we make it safe?" Sisa asked. "How do we keep a whole village remembering for 100 years? The mother finally turned and looked at her, and her green-flecked brown eyes were ancient and kind. "You make it a festival," she said. "You make remembering into joy. People forget a duty, they do not forget a feast." "Make a day," the mother said, "every year, when the whole valley gives back. With music, with food shared, with children learning to breathe their wish across the leaves. Wrap the duty in delight, and the delight will carry the duty down the generations long after I am only a story to them. That is how you keep me. That is how you keep him." Sisa understood. Not a rule, but a celebration. Not fear, but joy. A way to make the giving so woven into life that no good harvest could ever make them proud enough to forget again. She looked at the mother, this woman of warm earth kneeling in her own field, and made a new vow, not of words this time, but of a whole life's work. That evening the whole valley came together, not in fear now, but in the first true festival of the earth. They built fires, they shared the last of the stored food, freely the way Aini asked, and at the center, on the old flat offering stone swept clean, Sisa prepared the greatest gazpacho the village had ever made. Into the bundle went a kintu from every family, a thread of every color for the keeper of the water, soil from the high fields and the low, seed they could spare now, given gladly, not in panic, and Yupanqui, who had once believed in nothing but his own 2 hands, knelt to help her tie it closed. They gave the great bundle to the fire, and as the smoke rose, the whole valley felt it at once, a warmth in the ground, a gladness in the air. The mother rose up out of the offering stone itself, made of earth and firelight, taller than the flames, and for the first time the whole village saw her, and knew her, and wept. "I am here," the mother said to all of them, her voice the warmth of the fire and the depth of the soil. "I have always been here. Under your feet, in your fields, in your food. You see me now. Keep seeing me. That is all I have ever asked." And the valley answered her, 100 voices with one word: "We will." It felt like the end. The mother glad, the village remade, the festival begun. But far below, in the deep, the keeper of the water lifted his great head and listened to the gladness above, and felt, for one moment, the old loneliness creep back. A festival for the earth, he thought, and what of the one who holds the water? The danger was not over, it had only changed. The festival lasted until the stars wheeled low. The fires burned warm, the mother had been seen, and the valley would not forget her now. It should have been enough. But Sisa, watching the smoke rise, felt a small cold thread of worry she could not name. In the morning, the river ran lower than it should, not dangerously, just a little thin. The village did not notice, they were tired and glad, but Sisa noticed. She had learned to read the water now, and the water was saying something, quietly, the way the soil once had. She found Yupanqui and told him. He frowned. "We calmed him," he said. "He promised." "Yes," Sisa said, "but think. We made a festival for the mother. We danced for the earth. And the keeper of the water, who saved us, what did we give him, in all that joy?" She watched the understanding cross his face. "We did it again," Yupanqui said slowly. "The very thing that started all of this. We honored the one we could see, and forgot the one in the dark, even after everything, even knowing better." Sisa nodded. It is so easy, she said. That is the danger the mother warned me about. Forgetting is not a single mistake. It is a current. It pulls. Below the valley, in the deep, the serpent had heard the festival. The music, the laughter, the 100 voices crying, "We will," to the mother, and not one of them, in all that joy, had spoken his name. He had held the water gentle all night, waiting, and no threat had come. He did not rage. That was the worst of it. He simply began, again, to withdraw, to pull the water down into himself, the way the mother had pulled the green into herself. Not punishment, just a lonely thing, deciding once more that it was not really wanted, and the river above ran a little thinner. Here's the turn the story had been building toward. The first danger was drought, the earth forgotten. The flood was the second, the water unkept. But this third danger was the hardest, because it was not a monster or a disaster. It was a habit. The habit of thanking what shines and forgetting what holds. Sisa went to the elders, but this time she did not warn them with fear. She had learned that fear fixes a thing for one night and forgets it by the next. Instead, she asked a question. "Tell me," she said. "Last night we thanked the mother. Did anyone thank the river?" The elders looked at one another, and slowly they understood. "We thanked the earth that feeds us," the eldest said quietly, and forgot the water that fed the earth. "The same mistake, one layer down." He shook his head. "Is there no end to it?" Sisa almost smiled. "Maybe not," she said. "Maybe gratitude is not a thing you finish. Maybe it is a thing you keep learning, one forgotten one at a time. Stay with this, because it is the reason this story survived 3,000 years. The Andean people did not tell it to scare children into obedience. They told it to teach a way of seeing that the world is full of quiet holders, easy to forget, who keep us alive without applause, and that to live well is to keep noticing them. So they did not panic. They simply went, that very evening, down to the river, the whole village, and there on the bank they made a second offering, not for the earth this time, but for the water, and for the keeper who held it. A thread for every voice that had cried "We will" the night before. Sisa knelt at the water's edge and lifted 3 leaves and breathed across them as she had in the deep. "This is for you, keeper," she said into the current. "We almost forgot you. We will not again. The mother gets her festival, and you will get your own. We see you too," and she set the leaves on the water. The leaves spun on the current and were carried down into the dark places, all the way to the deep where the serpent lay withdrawing, and there, on the lowering black water, 3 small green lights appeared, floating toward him. He lifted his great head. They had not forgotten after all. They had come back, fast this time. They came back, the serpent breathed, and the wonder in his voice was almost painful. "I withdrew, and they noticed, and they came back the same day." He lowered his head to the floating leaves. In 100 years, no one had ever noticed quickly enough to mend it before the water failed. This was new. This was hope. And he let the water rise again, gently, exactly to its banks. Above, the village watched the thin river fill back to its proper height, in a single evening. They had caught the forgetting early. They had mended it before it broke. For the first time, the valley had not been saved from disaster. It had prevented one. That was the real turning of the story. Not a battle won, not a monster slain. A people learning to catch their own forgetting before it cost them everything. The drought had taught them to give. The flood had taught them to give the hard thing. And now the thin river had taught them the hardest lesson of all, to keep giving, even when nothing is wrong. But learning a lesson and living it for a lifetime are different things. Sisa knew the danger would always return, not as flood or drought, but as comfort, as good years, as pride. The village would need more than one clever girl who could read the water. It would need a way to remember built into the bones of its life. She thought of what the mother had said. Make remembering into joy. People forget a duty. They do not forget a feast. One festival for the earth was not enough. There would need to be a rhythm, a turning calendar of giving, woven through every season, so that no quiet holder of the world was ever forgotten for long. Yupanqui, who had once trusted only his plow, now sat with her late into the night helping. He had become, somewhere on that mountain and in that deep, a different man. One who knew that the harvest was a gift and a labor both, and that the giving was not weakness, but the truest strength the people had. They worked out the shape of it. In the planting season, offerings for the soil. In the rains, offerings for the keeper of the water. At harvest, the great festival of the earth, when the mother was thanked before a single grain was stored, a turning year of remembering, so that gratitude never had to be reinvented in a panic again. The elders agreed. How could they not? They had seen the cost of forgetting and the swift mercy of remembering, both within a single season. The young woman who had once been waved away as superstitious now stood at the center of the village, and they listened, and it was decided. The valley would live by the turning year of giving. But the mother had warned that a festival begun in one glad season can wither in 100 ordinary ones. So Sisa added one more thing, the most important: the children. From the youngest age, every child of the valley would learn to make a kintu, to breathe a wish across the leaves, to lay the offering with their own small hands. Because a tradition the elders perform is fragile, Sisa knew, but a tradition a child learns with their own hands becomes part of them. They will do it when the elders are gone. They will teach it to children of their own. That is how a single season's promise becomes 1,000 years of remembering, through the small hands. That night, Sisa walked up alone to the high terrace one more time. The mother was there, as she had known she would be, kneeling in the soil, working the green. "You did it," the mother said without turning. "You made the remembering into something that can outlive you." Sisa knelt beside her. "We tried," she said. "Will it be enough?" "Nothing is ever finally enough," the mother said gently. "There is no day when gratitude is complete and you may stop. There is only the next season and the next, and the choice, each time, to remember. You have given your people a way to keep choosing. That is the most anyone can do. That is, truly, everything." "And the keeper?" Sisa asked. "Will he be all right, down there in the dark?" The mother smiled. "He has his festival now, and his children learning his name. He will not be alone the way he was. None of us will. You did not just feed a village, Sisa. You mended a whole web. The earth, the water, and the people, bound back together." But there was still one thing left undone, and the mother's face grew quiet as she named it. "The keeper has held his peace on a promise," she said. "The whole valley must now go down to him, just once, together, not two travelers, but all of them, and seal the bargain with their own eyes. So he knows it is not your promise alone, it is theirs." "The whole valley," Sisa said. "Down into the deep?" The mother nodded. "Not the dangerous way you went. There is another path, gentler, longer, that opens only when the water is at peace. I will show you, but it must be all of them. A bargain held by one is a thread, a bargain held by all is a rope, and a rope holds for 1,000 years." So that became the last great task of the story, to bring the whole valley down gently into the deep, to stand before the keeper of the water as one people, and seal forever the bond that two frightened children had begun. Sisa looked down toward the dark, and was not afraid this time. She knew now what waited there. Not a monster, a lonely friend. She walked back down to the sleeping village to wake them gently, to tell them of the last journey, the one that would bind the whole web together for good. The mother watched her go, this girl who had remembered what everyone forgot. And somewhere far below, the keeper of the water felt the promise coming and held the river steady and waited, this time with hope. That is where we go next. Sisa woke the village before dawn, not with alarm but with quiet. She moved house to house, a candle in her hand, telling each family the same thing. There is one more journey, the last one, and this time we all go down together. Bring the children, bring your offerings, bring everything you are grateful for. By first light, the whole valley was gathered at the high terrace where the mother waited. Not as a vision now, but as a woman of warm earth standing among them, ordinary and enormous at once. The village fell silent. Many had wept for her at the festival fire, but few had stood this close to her in the plain morning light. "I will not ask you to be brave," the mother said to them all. "The way down is gentle now because the water is at peace. But I will ask you to be honest. The one we go to meet has been forgotten for 100 years. He will look into each of your faces. Bring him your true gratitude, or do not come at all." Then she led them down a fold of the mountain Sisa had never noticed, where a seam of rock opened into a wide, gentle stair descending into the dark. The soft road to the deep, open only when the keeper held the water kindly. The village followed, a long line of small lights winding down into the earth. The descent was nothing like Sisa's first frantic plunge. This way was slow, almost solemn. The walls glowed with the same pale roots she had seen before, and the children gasped to see them, the secret underside of their whole green world, the hidden roots of every plant they had ever eaten. lit up overhead like an inverted sky. Yupanqui walked near the front, carrying a small child of the village on his shoulders so she could see. He who had once thought the harvest was his alone, now wanted every child to see the roots, to know from the start what he had learned too late, that nothing we eat is ours alone, that everything is held by something below. Down and down they went, the air growing cool and close, the great pulse of the deep growing in their chests like a slow shared heartbeat. The children stopped gasping and grew quiet. Even the smallest of them understood, without being told, that they were walking into the presence of something very old and very important. And then the stair opened into the great cavern, and the whole village saw him at once, Amaru, the keeper of the water, coiled vast around his black source lake, his rainbow-black scales glinting, his antlered head as large as a house. The villagers stopped at the cavern's edge, and not one of them ran. They had come to give, and they stayed. The serpent looked at them, the whole valley, every face, the elders and the young and the children gathered in his dark for the first time in 100 years, and his great voice, when it came, trembled. "You all came," he said. "Not two, all of you." He lowered his enormous head slowly toward them. "I did not know you remembered I was here." The eldest of the village stepped forward, leaning on his staff, small beneath the vast serpent. "We forgot you," he said, his old voice steady. "For longer than I have been alive, and longer than my father's father. We took your water and never said your name. We are here to say it now, and to teach our children to say it long after we are gone." Then the elder did a thing that surprised everyone. He turned and beckoned the smallest child forward, a girl of perhaps 5 who had ridden on Yupanqui's shoulders. "Go on," he said gently. "Show the keeper what Sisa taught you." The child walked out alone beneath the enormous serpent, unafraid, holding 3 small coca leaves in her hand. The child lifted the 3 leaves to her lips, just as Sisa had shown her, and breathed her small wish across them. "Thank you for the water," she said, in a clear little voice that filled the whole cavern, and she knelt and set the leaves on the black lake. And they floated out toward the serpent, 3 small green lights from the smallest hands. The serpent watched the leaves come from the smallest hands in the valley, and something in him broke open and healed in the same moment. "A child," he breathed. "A child knows my name. Then I am not a secret anymore. I am not alone in the dark." He lowered his great head to the leaves, and the whole cavern seemed to sigh with him. One by one, then, the whole village came forward. Each person knelt at the lake and breathed across their own leaves and spoke their own thanks. 100 small green lights gathered on the black water until the source lake of all the valley's rivers glowed soft gold with the gratitude of an entire people. Amaru lifted his great head over the glowing lake and looked at it for a long, long time. 100 years of being forgotten, answered in a single hour by an entire valley. He could hardly hold it. "This," he said softly, "is what I was keeping the water for. Not to be thanked, to be part of you. And now I am. Now at last I am." The mother stood at the back of the cavern, watching her 2 children, the earth and the water, and her human children all together in one place for the first time in living memory. And she wept too, quietly, the way the soil weeps after rain. The web was whole. After so long, the broken thing was mended. But the bargain still had to be sealed, not with leaves alone, but with a thing the whole village could carry home and keep. Sisa had thought of this. She stepped forward now and unrolled a long woven cloth, made over the last days by every weaver in the valley, threads of every color, telling the whole story in pattern. "This is our promise made into cloth," Sisa told the serpent. "In every village house, a weaving like this will hang. The children will ask what the patterns mean, and we will tell them the story of the drought, the flood, the mother, and you. The keeper of the water, woven into our walls forever, so we can never forget again." The serpent looked at his own image woven into the cloth, beside the mothers, beside the terraces and the river. He who had been a forgotten thing in the dark was now a thread in the people's own story, hung where their children slept. "Weave me well," he said, with something like a smile in his great voice, "and I will keep your water well. That is a fair trade." And so it was sealed, not by Sisa alone, not by 2 frightened travelers, but by a whole people, with their children and their weaving and their 100 small lights on the water. A bargain held by all of them, a rope, the mother had called it, a rope that would hold for 1,000 years, and it would... They began the long climb back up the gentle stair, and this time the children led, holding the small lights, singing a little song that had made itself up somehow during the descent, a song about the mother and the keeper, simple enough for a child, that would be sung in the valley for 1,000 years after. They came up out of the earth into the late afternoon, blinking in the gold light, and the valley that met them was the most beautiful thing Sisa had ever seen. Green terraces climbing to the snow peaks, the river clear and full, and over it all the warm low sun and the first soft clouds of a gentle, ordinary rain beginning to fall. Rain. The first true, gentle, well-mannered rain in over a year. Not the killing drought, not the drowning flood. Just rain, falling soft on the green terraces, exactly enough, exactly where it was needed. The keeper was keeping his word already. The whole village turned their faces up to it and laughed and wept at once. Sisa stood apart in the rain and let it run down her face. She thought of her grandmother, who had taught her the old word and not lived to see it matter. She thought of the seed she had nearly given away on the mountain, and the future it was about to grow into. And she thought simply, we remembered in time. Yupanqui came and stood beside her in the rain. He did not say much. He had learned that some things do not need words. He simply reached down, took a handful of the wet, dark soil, and held it out to her on his open palm. The soil he had once thought was only dirt, offered now like something holy. It is not just dirt, he said quietly. I know that now. It took losing my whole harvest to learn it, but I know it now. She is a someone, and he pressed the soil back into the ground gently, the way you might tuck in a sleeping child. Sisa watched him, this changed man, and understood that the story had not only mended a valley, it had remade a person. That night the rain stopped and the stars came out, washed and brilliant, and the mother came to Sisa one last time, on the high terrace, kneeling in the soil that was now hers and Sisa's and everyone's. You have done what you came to do, she said. The web is whole. The bargain is sealed. The children are singing. I think you can rest now. Will you stay? Sisa asked. Will you always be here? The mother smiled and pressed her hand flat into the soil, and where she touched, a single green shoot rose. I am the ground, she said. I cannot leave. I can only be forgotten or remembered. You have chosen, for your whole valley to remember. So yes, I will always be here, right under your feet. And then, gently, the way the dawn replaces the night, the mother was no longer a separate woman kneeling beside Sisa. She was simply the terrace, the soil, the green, the whole warm living ground. Not gone, just everywhere. Sisa knelt alone now, her hands in the earth, and felt the mother in it, and was not lonely at all. The seasons turned. Sisa planted the seed she had carried up the mountain and nearly given to the wind, and it grew tall and golden, the best harvest the valley had seen in a generation. Each kernel of it was given back to the others, so that the brave seed spread to every family's field. From one bag of saved seed, a whole valley fed. And the turning year of giving took root just as deeply. Planting offerings, rain offerings, the great harvest festival of the earth. The children grew up never knowing a time without them, breathing their wishes across the leaves as naturally as breathing itself. The danger of forgetting did not vanish, but now it had to fight against a whole people's habit of remembering. Sisa and Yupanqui grew old in that valley, tending the terraces and the traditions side by side. They had children of their own, and those children learned the Kintu before they could walk well, and learned the story from the woven cloth on the wall, and learned to read the river the way Sisa had, quietly, so they could catch the forgetting early. And the river always ran. Through good years and lean ones, through Sisa's life and her children's children's, the keeper kept his word. Sometimes the rains were heavy and sometimes light, the way of all real things, but never again the killing drought, never again the drowning flood. The water remembered its banks, because the people remembered the keeper. This part of the story could simply end here, in peace, with the valley fed and the bond mended, and the old woman Sisa watching her grandchildren make their offerings. And in a way it does. But there was one more night, near the end of Sisa's long life, that the story remembers. A night when she went down to the deep one last time. She was old now, her braids gone white, her hands worn soft, but she walked the gentle stair down into the deep one more time, slowly, alone, to visit the keeper she had befriended as a girl. She wanted to thank him herself one last time before she became part of the mother's soil for good. The serpent was waiting, as if he had known she would come. His great antlered head lowered to meet her, and his red eyes were warm now, with none of the old fury. "Little one," he said, "though she was bent and white-haired, you have grown old keeping your promise. Not one season has passed without my thread. Do you know what that means to me?" "I think I do," Sisa said, her old voice soft. "It means you are not alone. It means you never will be again. I came to tell you I will not be coming down anymore. I am nearly soil now myself. But my grandchildren know the way, and their grandchildren will. You are woven in, keeper, for good." The serpent was quiet, and then he bowed his great head to her, slowly in honor. She climbed back up into the light for the last time, and not long after, in a gentle season, the old woman Sisa lay down in her stone house and became part of the mother she had spent her life remembering. They buried her in the high terrace, in the rich dark soil, where the best maize grew. It seemed right. She had always belonged to the ground. And the valley remembered her too, woven into the story cloth beside the mother and the keeper, the girl who remembered what everyone forgot. But before we follow the story into the centuries after her, stay a moment with that woven cloth, because the way this story was carried down to us is itself part of the story. The Andean people had no written books, not as we know them. They kept their stories in two ways instead, in weaving patterns and colors that the eye could read like words, and in song verses passed mouth to mouth, parent to child, around the evening fire. The story of Pachamama lived in cloth and in voice. A weaving could hold a whole story in its patterns, the stepped lines for the terraces, the wavy lines for the river, a diamond for the mother's eye, a coiled band for the keeper. A woman wearing such a cloth carried the story on her own body. She could not forget it. It was wrapped around her, every day, against the cold. And the songs did what songs do. They made the remembering into joy, exactly as the mother had asked. A duty is heavy, a song is light, so the children sang of the mother and the keeper while they worked, while they walked, while they fell asleep, and the story slipped into them so deeply that they could never quite tell where it ended and they began. This is why the story outlasted empires. Kingdoms rose and fell in the Andes. Conquerors came with their own gods and their own books. But you cannot burn a song someone is singing to their child. You cannot conquer a story woven into the clothes on a person's back. The mother lived on, quietly, in cloth and in voice, beneath everything. So when you hear this story tonight, remember that it reached you through 10,000 fires and 10,000 looms, breathed from grandmother to grandchild across more years than anyone can count. The mother asked to be remembered, and she was, all the way down to this very night, all the way down to you. The centuries after Sisa were not always gentle to the valley. There were hard winters and hungry years, as there always are, but the turning year of giving held. When a season went wrong, the people did not panic and forget. They knelt and gave, and read the water, and caught the forgetting early, just as Sisa had taught them. And the keeper kept his word through all of it. In the deep, Amaru held the water faithfully, year upon year, soothed each season by the threads that came down to him on the current. He was never forgotten again. The smallest child in every generation learned his name, and the great serpent, who had once been all loneliness, became all patience. The mother, too, kept giving the way she always had. But now she gave to a people who saw her. Every harvest, before a single grain was stored, the kintus came down into the soil, and she felt them, and she gladly fed her children another year. The lonely grief of her 100 forgotten years never came again. There is an old saying that grew up in that valley in the years after Sisa. They said, "The earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth, and what you take, you must return, or you take it from your own children." Simple words, a child could understand them. That was the point. The deepest truths are the ones a child can carry. The valley was not the only place that knew her, of course. Across the whole vast spine of the Andes, in 1,000 valleys and on 1,000 high plains, other peoples knew the mother too, by the same name or names like it. Pachamama, Mother Earth, the one beneath your feet. The story Sisa lived was one telling of a thing that many peoples held. This is the darkest thing the story knows, and it is worth naming softly. The mother's grief was never really about drought or flood. Those were only the shapes it took. Her grief was about being used without being seen, and that grief, the story tells us, is the oldest and quietest danger in any world, the slow forgetting of the things that hold us. But the story does not leave us in the dark, because the same hands that can forget can also remember. The same people who let the mother grow silent learned to fill the silence with song. That is the hope folded into the whole tale, that forgetting is not final, that you can always kneel and give and begin again. For a long time the valley lived in this gentle balance, the people giving, the mother feeding, the keeper holding the water, the children singing it all forward. It might have gone on quietly forever, an ordinary peace. But the story remembers one last great moment, generations after Sisa, when the whole bond was tested one final time and held. It came in the time of Sisa's great-great-granddaughter, a girl named Kuri, who had her ancestors' gift for reading the water. One year the sky did something no one in the valley had seen. It grew strange and yellow, and the air went still and heavy, and the old people muttered that a great test was coming, of a kind the songs barely remembered. The earth itself began to tremble, not the soft settling of ordinary ground, but a deep shifting, as if the mountains were turning in their sleep. Rock slides came down, a terrace wall cracked, and Kuri, reading the signs, understood with a chill what was happening. It was not the mother and not the keeper. It was the deep stone itself, the bones of the world, stirring. Kuri ran to the high terrace, to the place where the mother could always be reached, and knelt and pressed her hands to the shaking ground. "Mother," she called, "what is happening?" And the answer came up through her palms, warm and steady even amid the trembling. "It is the Apu," the mother said, "the great stone spirit. He is waking, and his waking shakes the world." The Apu had slept since the night Sisa climbed to his summit, generations ago, but now he was stirring, and the mother's voice held an edge of worry Kuri had never heard. "He guards the deep stone," she said, "the way the keeper guards the water, and I guard the soil, and he too has been long unthanked. The valley honors me and the keeper, but who in all these years has climbed to thank the mountain?" Kuri's heart sank, because she saw the old pattern repeating, one layer deeper still. They had learned to thank the earth, they had learned to thank the water, but the mountain, the stone that held the whole valley up, that they walked on and quarried and never once considered, the mountain had been the quiet holder they forgot this time. The forgetting was a current, it always found a new channel. But here is what the generations had given Kuri that Sisa never had at the start. She did not panic, and she did not have to learn the answer from scratch. She knew it already, in her bones, woven into her from childhood. When a quiet holder is forgotten and begins to stir, you do not fight it. You go to it, and you give. She gathered the village quickly, calmly, the way a people who have practiced gratitude for generations can. There was no arguing now, no elders waving her away as superstitious. The whole valley knew the shape of this. Within an hour they were climbing, a long line of them, up the old path toward the Apu's summit, carrying offerings for the forgotten mountain. They climbed through the trembling, past the cloud forest, up to the bare cold summit and the ancient stone altar where, generations before, a girl named Sisa had poured out her whole future into the wind. Kuri knelt at the same altar, and above her, vast and shaking and terrible, the Apu turned its waking blue eyes down upon the small gathering of humans. "Why do you come?" the Apu rumbled, and the whole mountain shook with the words. "For generations you have thanked the earth and the water, and walked upon my stone without a single word. I have held your valley on my shoulders since before your first mother, and not once have you climbed to say my name. Why now?" "Because we are slow," Kuri called up, "but we are not hopeless. Our first mother learned to thank the earth. Her children learned to thank the water. And we are the ones who finally climbed to thank the stone. We are sorry it took so long. We are sorry you held us up unthanked for so many years. We are here now. Will you let us begin?" And then Kuri did the thing her people had practiced for generations. She lifted a kintu of 3 coca leaves to her lips and breathed her wish across them. "Thank you for holding us up," she said, into the trembling wind. "Every step we have ever taken, you carried." And she laid the 3 leaves on the ancient stone altar of the mountain, the first offering the Apu had received in living memory. One by one, the whole village added their offerings to the altar, until it was heaped with kintus and threads and small gifts for the mountain, and the trembling, slowly began to ease. The Apu lowered its great waking eyes to the heaped altar, and the cold blue light in them softened, just as the Snow Mother's grief had softened generations before. "So," the Apu said, and its voice was quieter now, the shaking nearly stilled. "After all these ages the little ons have climbed to me at last." It looked over the heaped offerings and the gathered faces and the children among them. "And you have brought your children, so they will know the way. Then perhaps I will not have to wake again." Kuri made the mountain the same promise her ancestor had made the keeper of the water. A festival, she said. A climb every year to thank the stone that holds us. A thread for the earth. A thread for the water. And now a thread for the mountain too. We will not forget you again, Apu. We are learning, slowly, but we are learning to see all of you. The Apu settled back into stillness. A mountain once more, the trembling gone entirely now. But its blue eyes, before they dimmed to sleep, held something they had never held before, a warmth, a being seen. The great stone that had carried the valley unthanked for generations would carry it now as kin. One more quiet holder brought back into the circle. Kuri led the village back down the steadied mountain in the evening light, and she understood something her ancestor Sisa had only begun to grasp, that this work would never truly be finished. There would always be another quiet holder, another forgotten thing, another layer of gratitude to learn. Not as a burden, as a way of living, as a way of seeing the whole world as alive, and owed thanks. And so the circle widened, generation by generation, to hold more and more of the world. The earth, the water, the mountain. In time, the sun and the moon and the wind and the rain, each thanked in their season. The valley became a people who walked through a living world and saw, in everything, a quiet holder worth a word of thanks. This is the gift Sisa gave, though she never saw most of it. Not a single rescue from a single drought. A way of being in the world that grew and deepened long after she became soil. From one bag of seed nearly given to the wind, a whole way of living took root and fed a people for 1,000 years, and feeds them still. The story could end 100 times over, and each ending would be true. With Sisa's first offering on the mountain, with the village kneeling in the lane, with the whole valley gathered in the deep, with Kuri thanking the stone. Each is a place to rest, but the story has one more image it wants to leave you with, before we let the night take over. Picture the valley at night, as it has been for 1,000 years, and is, in many high places even now. The terraces climbing toward the snow, the river clear and gentle in its banks. Smoke from 100 small offering fires rising into a sky thick with stars. And under it all, in the soil and the water and the stone, the quiet holders remembered, at rest. Somewhere in that valley, a grandmother is teaching a small child to hold 3 coca leaves and breathe a wish across them. The same gesture Sisa learned, the same gesture Sisa taught. Unbroken hand to hand across more years than anyone can count, all the way down to a small pair of hands learning it tonight. And the mother feels it. Every one of those small offerings she feels, the way you feel a hand slip gently into yours. She is not a story to them, not really. She is the ground they stand on, the food they eat, the warmth under the cold. She is here, she has always been here. And now at last, for 1,000 years, she has been remembered. That is the whole of it. A mother who fed everyone and was forgotten, a girl who remembered, a serpent in the deep brought home, a mountain thanked at last, and a way of living woven into cloth and carried in song that says, look down, look around, look at what holds you up, and say thank you. Simply that, say thank you. We have come a long way tonight, up a mountain, down into the deep, across 1,000 years of remembering. And the story is nearly ready to let you go, gently, into sleep. But it lingers a little longer here, in the quiet, the way a good story does, unwilling to quite let the warmth fade. The terraces are quiet now. The river runs soft over its stones. High above, the snow peaks hold the last of the moonlight, and far below, in the deep, the keeper of the water turns gently in his sleep, his great coils loose and easy, dreaming, perhaps, of 3 small green lights floating toward him across the dark. The mountain sleeps too, the great Apu still beneath the stars, content now, no longer needing to wake and shake the world to be noticed. Its cold blue eyes are dark and peaceful. The valley it carries rests easy on its stone shoulders, and the stone, for the first time in ages, rests easy too. And the mother is everywhere and nowhere, the way she always is, in the soil cooling under the night, in the roots drinking quietly in the dark, in the seed waiting in the storehouse for spring. Not a woman now, just the warm, patient ground holding everything, asking only to be remembered. And she is. Before we close, one last look at how she is remembered, even now. The story you have heard tonight is not only old, it is alive, right now, in the high Andes, in Peru, in Bolivia, In Ecuador, in northern Argentina and Chile, millions of people still honor Pachamama by that very name, much as Sisa's valley did 1,000 years ago. Each August, when the dry season turns, whole communities still make the despacho, the offering bundle of coca leaves, seeds, wool, and small sweets, wrapped with care and given to the earth. The mouths of the fields are said to open then, hungry, and the people feed the mother first, before they ask anything of her for the coming year. Before a drink is poured, many still tip the first sip onto the ground, a challah, they call it, for Pachamama. Before a house is built, before a journey, before a harvest, the mother is thanked, the earth is fed. The exact gesture Sisa's grandmother taught her, still living in a million ordinary hands today. And the name has traveled far beyond the mountains now. Pachamama is spoken in cities, in books, in the laws of nations that have written the rights of Mother Earth into their constitutions. A mountain mother, once nearly forgotten in a single valley, has become a word the whole modern world reaches for when it wants to remember that the earth is not a thing, but a someone. So the story did exactly what the mother asked of Sisa all those years ago. It made the remembering into something that could outlive its tellers. Cloth and song carried it through empires, and now it has carried all the way to you on this quiet night, 1,000 years and half a world away. You are part of the remembering now too. But that is the waking world, and you are drifting now toward the sleeping one, so let us set the centuries down, gently, and return to the valley, to the night, to the warm dark soil and the quiet stars, and let the story carry you the last little way towards sleep. Imagine you are there in the high valley on a soft night near the end of the dry season. The air is cool and clean and smells of earth and wood smoke. Above you, more stars than you have ever seen. Below you, the terraces step down into the dark, quiet and full and at peace. Somewhere nearby, a low fire is burning down to embers. A few people sit around it, not speaking much, content in the quiet. One of them is tending the last of an offering, letting its thin smoke rise into the stars. It is a small thing. It is everything. It is how a whole world is held together, quietly, with thanks. The fire burns lower. The voices fade. One by one the people rise and slip away to their stone houses to sleep. And the valley settles into the deep quiet of a mountain night, held safe between the sleeping mountain above and the sleeping serpent below, watched over by the patient stars. And the mother holds all of it, as she always has. The sleeping people, the cooling fires, the waiting seed, the clear soft river. She asks for nothing tonight. She is remembered, and she is content, and she lets her children sleep, the way she has let sleeping people sleep since long before there were names for any of it. There is a deep comfort in that, if you let yourself feel it, that whatever you carried into this night, whatever you gave today without thanks, whatever weight you held that no one noticed, there is something older than all of it holding you too. You do not have to hold everything alone, you never did. So let yourself be held tonight, the way the valley is held. Let the day's giving be enough. Let the things you carried be set down, just for now, into the warm, dark patience of the ground. You do not have to do anything more tonight, you only have to rest. The stars wheel slowly overhead, the same stars Sisa watched from her rock shelter on the mountain, the same stars the first people saw when they came up out of the cave by the lake. They have watched over 1,000 years of sleeping valleys. They are watching over yours now. We are almost at the end now. The story has done what it came to do, carried you up into the old world, and is carrying you, gently, back down towards sleep. There is no more climbing tonight, no more deep to descend. Only the soft, warm settling of a valley and a mind into rest. Feel the warmth of your own bed now, the way the valley feels the warmth still held in its soil after the sun. You are part of the same old world the story comes from, held by the ground, fed by the earth, watched by the patient stars. You belong here. You are held. You can let go. The valley breathes slow. The river murmurs soft. The mountain sleeps, and the serpent dreams, and the mother holds it all, warm and patient and glad. And the last small offering smoke rises up, and up, into the stars, carrying 1,000 years of quiet thank yous into the deep and peaceful night. And in that deep, peaceful night, the whole web of the old world held together at last, all at once. In the high terraces, the seed stirred toward spring. In the river, the keeper held the water gentle. In the stone, the mountain rested content. And through the soil of the entire valley, the mother sent up a slow, warm pulse of life, and everything green leaned toward it. It was the deepest peace the valley had ever known, Not the fragile calm after a disaster, but a true and settled wholeness. Earth, water, stone, and people. Each one seen, each one thanked, each one holding up the others. The broken web of 100 forgotten years was not just mended now, it was stronger than it had ever been. And the mother, feeling her whole world finally held together. Every quiet keeper remembered every child singing her forward, let out a long, slow breath that moved like a warm wind across the entire valley, stirring the maize, rippling the river, brushing the cheeks of the sleeping people like a blessing. It was the breath of a mother whose children, at last, had come home. This is where the great story comes to rest. Not with a battle won, but with a world made whole. Not with a hero standing tall, but with a mother breathing easy over a valley that finally knows how to thank her. The deepest victory of all, and the quietest, the kind you can fall asleep inside. So rest now, here, in the warm dark of the old valley, held by the mother who holds everything. The story has carried you as far as it can. The rest of the way into sleep is yours. We will stay with you a little longer, in the quiet, as the night deepens and the last warm light fades. Just rest, you are held. Stay in the quiet with me a moment longer. The story is told, but old stories leave small gifts behind. Let us turn a few of them over, softly, before sleep. At the heart of it all is one small word the Andean people lived by. Aini, I give to you, you give to me, and neither of us keeps score, because we are bound. The village did not break because they were cruel. They broke because they forgot Aini with the ground. They kept taking and stopped giving back. That is the whole wound. Notice that Pachamama is a mother, not a master. You do not obey the earth. You do not buy her favor. You are in a relationship with her. And relationships need tending. That is why her silence was grief, not anger. She did not withdraw to punish. She withdrew because being used without being seen wears down even a mother's heart. Think of the offering itself. The despacho, the kintu, the 3 leaves breathed upon. It was never a payment. It was a piece of a person given so the earth would know she was loved. That is why Sisa's gift mattered, and the village's leftover did not. A gift that costs you nothing is not really a gift. The truest offering is the one you can least spare. And the serpent Amaru, think of what he stands for. The water of the world, wild and life-giving both. Gentle when honored, ruinous when ignored. Like every great force we depend on. His loneliness is the quiet heart of the tale. He kept the water for everyone, and no one remembered he was there. How many quiet keepers hold up your life, unthanked? The terraces, too, carry meaning. Built slowly, stone by stone, over generations. Patience made into a place. Nothing in this story comes fast. The mending, like the building, takes time. And notice the danger was never a monster. It was a habit, the habit of thanking what shines and forgetting what holds. The sun gets the prayers, the soil gets the footsteps. That is why the story keeps adding layers, earth, then water, then mountain. Gratitude is not a task you finish. It is a way of seeing you keep practicing, one forgotten thing at a time. The mother's wisest words were these: make remembering into joy. People forget a duty. They do not forget a feast. So gratitude was woven into festival, song, and the hands of children. There is a reason the children mattered most. A duty the elders perform is fragile. A gesture a child learns by heart becomes part of them and travels on into the centuries. And think of Yupanqui's change. The man who said the harvest came from his own 2 hands. He learned the hardest truth, that he was never working alone. None of us are. This is why the story survived 3,000 years. It was never told to frighten. It was told to teach a way of seeing that the world is full of quiet holders, and to live well is to notice them. And the gentlest truth of all, forgetting is not final. The same hands that let the mother grow silent learned it to fill the silence with song. You can always kneel, and give, and begin again. Maybe that is the gift this old story has for you tonight. A reminder that whatever you give and give unthanked someone, something older than all of it, is holding you too. And a quiet invitation too. To look down sometimes. To look around. At the food, the water, the ground, the hands that hold your life up. And simply softly to say thank you. That is what the mother always wanted. Not gold, not obedience, just to be seen. The same perhaps as anyone who holds a world together quietly. Including, sometimes, you. This story did not stay in the past. Of all the old myths, Pachamama is among the most alive, still honored by that very name across the high Andes today. In Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, and beyond, millions still keep her. The conquerors brought new gods and new books, but you cannot burn a song or conquer a story woven into the clothes on a person's back. Each August, when the dry season turns, whole communities still make the despacho. Coca leaves, seeds, wool, small sweets wrapped with care and given to the hungry earth before anything is asked of her. Before a drink is poured, many still tip the first sip onto the ground, a hala, for Pachamama, the exact gesture Sisa's grandmother taught, living still in a million ordinary hands. Before a house is built, before a journey, before a harvest, the earth is still thanked. The turning year of giving that Sisa once dreamed up is, in the high country, simply how life is lived. And the mountains themselves are still honored as the Apis, the great stone spirits Kuri once climbed to thank. Travelers still leave small offerings on high passes, akin to for the peak that holds the road. The name has traveled far beyond the mountains too. Pachamama is spoken in cities, in books, even in the laws of nations that have written the rights of Mother Earth into their constitutions. A mountain mother, once nearly forgotten in a single valley, has become a word the whole modern world reaches for when it wants to remember that the earth is not a thing, but a someone. So the story did exactly what the mother asked. It made the remembering outlive its tellers. Cloth and song carried it through empires, and now it is carried all the way to you on this quiet night. You are part of that long remembering now, simply by having listened. And with that, the waking world can rest. Let us return one last time to the valley and the night and sleep. The valley is quiet now. The river runs soft over its stones. The snow peaks hold the last silver of the moon. The last offering fire has burned to embers. Its thin smoke rises slow into a sky thick with patient stars. Next time, somewhere warmer, somewhere the air smells of salt, and a different kind of water remembers an old name. But that is for another night. Tonight, only this, the high quiet valley, and you, drifting gently down towards sleep. There is nothing left for you to carry tonight. The mother holds the valley. Let the ground hold you. Whatever you gave today, thanked or not, it mattered. And something older than all of it is holding you too. The stars wheel slow above the snow, the same stars that watched a girl pour her seed into the wind. We will be here when you are ready, with another old story and another quiet night like this one. But there is no hurry now, no journey left, only the soft dark and the warm ground and rest. Sleep now. The mother holds the valley and the valley holds you. Good night. We will be here.